Well, why don't we call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. And Lisa, if you could call the list.
Okay. Joe Abdella. Joe.
Here.
John.
Here.
Greg.
Here.
Jim.
Here.
And Jim, I'm sorry, this is the last time I'll get to call your name for attendance.
Oh, why is that?
Well, if you're not running next year.
Well, I still got
Anyway.
I have another year.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. Okay. Alex.
Here.
Justin.
Here.
Jen.
I don't see her.
I don't see her. I'm here. Mike Sinatra.
Here.
Julie Stewart. Julie.
She's here. Yeah, she's here.
Okay. Pete.
Here.
And Mary. Here. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so we're just missing Jen for the time being. All right, I would be delighted to open the floor to public comment on matters on the agenda, if anyone has anything.
Hi, my name's Kara Abraham.
Yes.
And I just like to share with the board the letter that I shared with you all earlier this morning. It's not on your agenda. It is about the music teacher at Boothby School, because we were just informed via email from that teacher yesterday that she's not returning to her position. And so I wrote a letter to you all this morning, and I wanted to share it, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Good grief. Yet another music teacher is leaving Booth Free School. This is the 6th teacher of music, including general and instrumental, to have taught at Booth Free School since 2013. I place the responsibility for this revolving door squarely on the leadership team of Region 12 schools. While not all of you have served in your current positions since 2013, you are serving now. And now is the time to decide if Booth Free School is as worthy as the other elementary schools in the region. Do the children of Roxbury deserve a music teacher who can establish excellent musical habits and routines that build year after year? Do Roxbury children deserve a music program that is consistent, follows a logical progression of skills and attitudes, and fosters a love of music? My concern, which I have shared with the principal and the superintendents as previous music teachers have resigned, is that a music teacher just is not seen as essential to a child's education, that Boothby School can get by with a part-time teacher, that hiring first-year and retired teachers is a sensible way to fill a position that by its design is undesirable and unsustainable. I'm asking you tonight as school leaders to change this way of doing business at Booth Free School. Design a position that fully meets the needs of our elementary school children for music education. Creative rather than expedient. Be mindful of the message you are sending to our children, and be mindful of the message you are sending to potential families that are looking to move into Roxbury. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Okay. Are there any other comments from the floor, from the public?
Hey, Greg.
Yeah.
There was someone who was supposed to log in and say something. Can I read an email that he sent me? In his, instead of I think he must be having trouble logging in.
Yeah. Why not, John? Go ahead.
Okay. Okay, his name is John Paris. He's a member of the Washington community, and he's very community-minded. We would appreciate it if you would let us know how many students we have in District 12 and how many of these students and or families depend on the schools for their breakfast, lunch, and dinners. I don't know that he knows there are no dinners served, but I had sent this information to the district office several weeks ago so that District 12 could be added to the SAP database joint venture with Gen Youth. And he's got a link. I was first told that District 12 would be added and then informed that District 12 was getting its food from Ed Advance in Torrington, and District 12 staff was delivering to District 12 students. Is there a particular reason why District 12 schools do not have their kitchens open and are not offering food to the needy in the community and surrounding areas in general, as they do in New Milford, Bethlehem, and Brookfield? Thanks, John.
All right. I think we'll pass that on to the administration to answer. Okay. Can you make sure if that email wasn't forwarded to Megan,
Yes.
or that you do that so that that question can be answered?
Okay, I'll forward it.
And I do-
Also, it should probably go to. Well, I'll send it to the superintendent. She can decide what to do with it.
Oh, and I can tell you, I have been in contact with John Paris, and I can also share with you that we have provided food. We're just not a site where it's directly preparing the food itself, but we are certainly preparing the delivery and working with our towns. But I understand and appreciate the support that is being sought to continue to provide our families.
Okay. Good. Anyone else? Any other comments? All right. Not hearing any, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the recognition of students. I'll turn that over to the superintendent.
All right. Well, good evening. I get to recognize some very, very important people tonight. What we have before us is I have the opportunity to present our Litchfield County Superintendents Award. And the Superintendents Award is given to a student who demonstrates not only leadership, but compassion and empathy towards others. Is constantly looking to make certain that they are a role model, not just in their grades and in their work habits, but also in how they're performing and interacting with others. So at this time, I would like to not just read the list of names that we have, but I would like to share the little blurb that has been given to us about the students and why they are deserving of this award. So the first one from Booth Free School is Miss Paige Palumbo. Paige Palumbo is a dependable, hardworking fifth grader at Booth Free School in Roxbury. She consistently puts her best effort into her academic work and always perseveres. As a result of her determination, Paige has made impressive growth this year. Paige also enjoys horseback riding, crafts, and gymnastics. In her free time, Paige loves to sing as well as play the guitar and piano. Paige is a loyal and caring friend who deserves recognition of her kindness to others and her strong work ethic. Congratulations, Paige. We are very proud of you. And I hope you are all scrolling right now to find the picture of Paige. All right. The next student I would like to recognize is from Burnham School. And we have, oh my goodness, I know this name. We have Lyric Collantine, is an outstanding student at Burnham School. Lyric models leadership and demonstrates kindness and creativity. Lyric volunteers for the Student Council and fundraising for our kindness campaign. She's a strong student leader and an avid reader. I wonder where she gets that from. She strives to excel at soccer and trapeze. Well, that's interesting. She is a contributing member of our Intervention Convention, the Shiprock Soccer, and the school chorus and band. Lyric values her friends, family, and nature, as well as her hamster and dogs. We commend Lyric for her determination and positive citizenship. Congratulations, Lyric.
Yay!
I see a little blush. I like that. Well deserved. Excellent job. All right. Our next, and I'm going to say the name and I'm going to ask the family to unmute if I say it wrong. So let's try this. Agnes Skeisel?
No. That was
Okay,
close.
go ahead. Give it to me.
Seesaw.
Oh, I like it. That would have been so much better. All right. Well, let me tell you about Agnes, our 5th grade student from Washington Primary School. Agnes is a quiet, mature leader and a positive role model for her peers. She is self-motivated and independent. Agnes can be counted on to always do the right thing. She looks for the opportunities to challenge herself and consistently goes above and beyond in her schoolwork. She is president of the Student Council and has supported several school-wide fundraisers. Agnes has an artistic aptitude and a creative flair that is evident in her schoolwork and style. Congratulations to you. We're very proud.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and now moving to our 8th grade at Shiprock. I'd like to recognize Mia Malati. She's an 8th grade student at Shiprock Valley School. She embodies our core values of answering the call to citizenship by being an active and involved student council member, always willing to help others, and consistently going above and beyond expectations. She is a dedicated student who previously received Shiprock Student of the Month Award in 7th grade for her character trait of respect. Mia is a positive role model for all students, and it sounds like this is a tradition she is keeping up. So congratulations, Mia. We're very proud of you. All right. Now I'd like to recognize our 11th grader, Spencer Heron. He's a junior at Shiprock Valley School. Spencer has participated in the cross-country and track and field teams for the last 4 years. Spencer is also a member of the Law Enforcement Club. He's been a volunteer firefighter for 4 years and is currently working towards his certification in interior firefighting. Spencer's future goals include enlisting in the Army's Airborne Infantry and ultimately becoming a full-time police officer or firefighter in New York City. Spencer, congratulations, and your ambitions are fabulous. We are so proud of you.
Hey.
All right. Our next is our senior at Shiprock Valley School, and I just have to let you know that Rebecca Ross is not only all the things I'm going to read about, but I will tell you, on a moment's notice, she was ready to jump into action and is actually helping us out with our playlist for the graduation ceremony. So to say the reliability, I understand where this is coming from. So let me read a little bit about Rebecca. She is very inquisitive, thoughtful, and cooperative. She's a member of the National Honor Society and the Model UN and participated in the World Affairs Forum. Rebecca leads by example, as her analysis and insights set the tone of respect and passion for the world and ideas. She is humble in her work and is open-minded to new ideas and very respectful towards her peers and teachers. In short, she's a phenomenal role model. Congratulations, Rebecca. Well deserved.
I'm sending that playlist your way right after this meeting.
See, look at this. And she keeps deadlines. I love those things. So congratulations. The next set of awards that I have the honor of sharing with the students we have before us are the CABE Awards. And the CABE Awards comes from the Connecticut Associations of Boards of Education. And what better place to present this to you than right before our Board of Education. And when you look at what the Leadership Award requires is that we asked the Shiprock administration to find students who exhibit exemplary leadership skills. And they were asked to look at everyone they had before them and see who meets that criteria. So I would like to read our 2 middle school students and 2 high school students who were chosen amongst their peers. So the first name I have to introduce you to is Annabelle Cherrick. Annabelle is a model student in all senses of the phrase. She is always willing to help those around her and has been an active member of the student council. She is a quiet leader in her grade, one that her peers look up to. She rises to any challenge given to her and has the ability to advocate for herself and others when needed. Thank you, Annabelle. That is a great leadership role model you're giving to us all. Make certain you're looking, you see where our Annabelle is on your screen. All right. Our next middle school student that I would like to recognize is Cameron Gertner. Cameron is a hardworking student who perseveres when faced with challenges. He advocates for himself and others around him, striving to make Shiprock the best school it can be. He takes the time to be aware of others, and he's empathetic to those around him. He's an excellent example of how we want our students to accept the call to citizenship. And one of the examples I have to share about Cameron was on a day that we were doing the groundbreaking for our agri-science program. And Cameron came in with 2 other students and as respectfully as could be said, Mrs. Gallo, we really want to see the ceremony. Would it be okay if we gave up our lunch to come see what's happening at our school? And I tell you, it is just, it was a proud, proud moment. And Cameron, you continue to make us proud. So congratulations. Oh my goodness. And now going to our senior leaders that we have. And if you've been to any of our award ceremonies, I'm going to tell you, this name is rolling off everybody's tongue because Miss Lily Shear really has shown her leadership skills throughout the year and in her time at Shiprock. Lily Shear is a friend, teammate, scholar, daughter, leader, competitor, and dancer. Her drive, focus, and desire to be truly exceptional is one to be admired. Lily is looked up to and is often relied on by her peers, teachers, and community members. She is persistent when it comes to any and all of her passions and is exuberant in every facet of life. Lily Shear is going to make a large-scale difference in this world in whatever she decides to do. Congratulations, Lily. We are very proud of you.
Yeah.
All right. And our last honoree of the night, and I'm going to say to you, so what we're going to do is after I share about this amazing person, we're all going to say nice things. We'll have a little bit of a thank you for coming, and then I'd say you're welcome to leave. You don't have to sit through the whole board meeting if you don't want to. But right now, you do have to sit tight when I tell you about Owen Moore. Owen Moore has shown strong leadership skills throughout his time at Shiprock Valley School. Beginning in his freshman year as a class officer, he delegated tasks, organized events, and communicated effectively. He is the very goal-oriented person that makes sure that everybody's voice is heard. Owen is one of the most diligent and committed students at our school. This year, Owen took charge of organizing the Red Cross blood drives and was an integral part of planning the National Honor Society induction ceremony. And I also have to say, he was a key reason that Shiprock rock got painted as he organized the entire class to make certain that everybody's name met that rock. So really, congratulations and great leadership shown throughout, and all of our leaders recognized tonight. Congratulations, everyone. All right. Well, we can continue to gush over you. We can say really nice things because we're really proud of you. Or if it's one where if you'd like to sign up, you're welcome to do. You're welcome to sign off, or you're welcome to stay. So thank you all. We are very proud of you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job and congratulations, all of you. Impressive.
Congratulations, everyone. Super proud.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone. You're awesome.
Amazing.
Super proud, super proud.
So great.
Greg,
Yes.
Pete, you've got to do something about your volume because you're giving feedback all the time.
Really?
Yeah. You keep popping up on my screen as the talker. Maybe just turn the volume down a little bit.
Yeah, let me, hold on a second.
Thank you.
Ben, let me turn the volume down.
I was gonna say, Ben, if you're on, can you hit mute onto Pete Tagley's?
Well, he can do that himself, but
He
when
can
he
do it
turns
himself.
himself on,
but yeah.
Can you help?
Every time I mute Pete, he unmutes himself. I think.
Well, I'd say mute him now while he's figuring that out, so that way as him and Diana and his IT person, I love her, helps us out. So.
All right. I guess we'll move on to the consent agenda as the only thing we have on the consent agenda, the meeting minutes from May 18th. Unless someone would like to take them out from the consent agenda for separate consideration, we'll leave it on. So does anyone wants to take it off? Hearing no one, those minutes will be adopted. Next item is an update on COVID-19.
Greg,
Okay.
Yes.
can I say something about the minutes?
Yes.
I have a correction. Under the,
Okay, wait, I guess we want to take that then from the, we'll remove it from the consent agenda. We'll have to vote on it separately.
there, under the treasurer's report, when I mentioned, it was pointed out that the federal and state school lunch grant is approximately $332,500. I wish that were true, but it's only, I think there was just an extra zero added on, so I think it was 32.5.
All right.
an extra 3 added in.
Maybe an extra 3, yeah, that's what it was.
All right.
John,
Yes,
sorry. Can you tell me the exact amount that it should be?
I believe it's 32.5, but Nicole would know exactly.
325,000?
No, 32,500.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Nicole, would
darn.
you care to weigh in?
No, I mean, we can only approximate it because it changes month to month, but that's the approximate number.
Okay, the order of magnitude is in the tens of thousands, not the hundreds of thousands.
Correct.
Oh, darn.
Well,
Oh, darn is right.
I can't imagine what red tape would come with it if it was 10 times as much. But why don't we, can I entertain a motion to adopt the minutes with that change?
I so move.
Moved by Alex. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Sue, would you please take the
Diana?
Sure. Was
Is
that
this
Pete
where
in
the-
second?
You need a vote.
Well, actually, you know what? Maybe we don't need to do that. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
What does it say?
Is anyone opposed?
Are you opposed?
No.
Say aye then.
I did say aye.
I heard no one opposed, and I heard no one abstain. Chairman votes aye. Those minutes are adopted.
Okay,
As
passes 12-0.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on. Now, if there's no
Greg,
yes.
say something. Does everybody realize that they're all blocked? Their video has stopped. They have to turn it back, put the video back on.
Yeah, there are a lot of people.
I see everybody except for you, Mary.
No, I think there's at least 11
Wow.
people who are
I
not.
have everybody blocked except for me. Strange.
Yes, Mary, you're now blocked. You've disappeared. There you go.
It's so
Okay.
weird.
Now that we've got everybody on who wants to be on, some people don't want to be seen. You know, it's
Right, I know, but I
going
have
to a meeting
everybody
with a
that
bag
doesn't want to
over
be
your
seen
head.
except for me.
Okay. Let's move on to COVID-19, Megan.
Oh, goodness gracious. What a long road it's been, huh? So I want to just give you a little bit of an update of where we are. So I'm going to share my screen with you quickly. I would suggest to you, instead of having it, if your screen right now shows 4 people going down, if you go up and just look at the the little line that says hide thumbnail videos, that'll give you the full view of the screen as we are looking at it. But what I want you to see is we are tracking right now, and we've done a lot of planning. So I wanted to give you a quick overview before I get into the PowerPoint that I'd shown and shared with you in your board packet. There's a lot of things that right now are up in the air because of the fact we don't have the guidance from the state with what will look like in the fall. We are not certain if we are going to go back fully being in school, being fully distance learning, or some hybrid. But what I can tell you is we absolutely know we are not going back to the way things used to be for the fall. So we will be looking at things like having 6 feet between our desks. Everything that we are doing is to individualize education. It is going to be less collaboration. There are not going to be children sitting around a table. We recognize that safety is going to come above all else. So things that we have been doing, and I want to just show you, because I also don't want anybody to think because we don't have, we haven't brought in the public yet to do some of these reopening plans, and we have not gotten teachers on these big plans yet, because at this point, we are still talking in hypotheticals. I can tell you our administrative team has done a heavy lift with logistics, and so we will be inviting more people once we have an understanding of what the state's expectations are. But I can tell you that right now we do have a plan in the works. Teresa has been gathering information and feedback regarding people's experience during distance learning. We are very good with where our next steps are for curriculum. We have a means of assessing what the students learned. And there's a big difference between what we were able to teach and what the students learned. Currently, we've been working as a group on securing the PPE. So we are continually looking to get more materials, in so much as all of us who are Costco members are randomly buying as soon as wipes come up. So it's really been all hands on deck, leveraging some of the relationships that we've had with some of the vendors, finding new vendors. But I can say that we are ready for summer school. And it is one in which we know we're going to need a constant flow of materials. We have purchased masks, so they are available for students. We have gloves, we have wipes, we have disinfectants, we have gowns, we have face shields. You know, we're really looking to, if we are able to get students in school, we want to be as safe as possible. We also know that part of that safety is our nurses. Our nurses have been trained in, or are being trained in, trace contacting. So that way, if anybody does have COVID, we are able to figure out what zone that happened in, who they interacted with, and our nurses are becoming proficient in that. We are getting trainings together, so that way people, when they come in, they know what to expect. But we are saying there will not be visitors. We are not opening up our doors to just this normalcy. We recognize we have to be restrictive, and I know that's incredibly difficult. And we will certainly be looking to make certain our children have training, because they need to know why things are going to look different. Why are there masks? What's happening? So all of that comes with knowledge and education. Budgets and financials. We know right now we have unbudgeted costs. The first one that we saw right off the bat was when we decided that it was not appropriate to multi-age booth free next year. We have the addition of PPE. When we went into budget season, that was not even an acronym we were all fluent in. And so to now say we're looking at what are some of those costs? How do we spend money more efficiently? We have asked that the business office has more control over the budget line items, so that way we can make certain that in anything that we have an uptick in costs, such as the next item, which is transportation. Knowing that social distance issues will cut our bus ridership. Right now, when we go to have 7 students that we're transporting for summer school, that's going to require 3 buses for 7 students.
Wow.
3 buses, because partly you have to have them separated, but also because geographically we can't have children on the bus for longer than an hour. So all of these things right now are things that we're trying to make certain we are logistically mapping out in order to see what that does for us, what do we have to restrict, and so that is requiring more control over our financials right now. And then under operations, we are asking our custodians. This is going to be a lot of heavy lifting for them. And so we need to make certain that they're able to then meet the cleaning needs as we individualize education. So, what does it look like to wipe the desk? And we've been researching things like UV lights, and we've been looking at green cleaners, and some of it I can tell you we've actually discounted because it's not going to meet the needs. So we are truly exploring everything that's out there and trying to stay current with what are the CDC guidelines as well as some best practices. So quickly, the headlines are that we do have plans that are in place for full return, partial return, and full distance learning. I can say proudly that we have gotten not only just approvals from the Department of Health on some of our plans that we've put forward, and we have used the Department of Health when it's the graduation plan, when it's the reopening plan, when it's our summer school ESY program. And I can tell you they've, on our plans, they've actually put down and said things like, this is exemplar, and they've shared it with other districts because other districts have contacted me to say that they had our plans in their hands. And I think that really goes to the amount of planning and how we've really looked at the different details. And I think when you hear what Allie O'Hara is going to share with you later on about ESY, you're going to see her attention to detail. You're going to see exactly what was thought out, entry points, exit points, bathroom uses. How are they even going to drink in school when we're not allowed to have them bring in water bottles from home? So all of these things we're definitely, I'm very proud of that we're thinking in terms of what does that learning experience look like. But there are challenges. Social distancing and a child's need to have movement in recess fall directly at odds with one another. We talked about some of the transportation, our unbudgeted costs, recognizing it's almost easier to bring back our elementary students who are contained in one room than when we have to open up at Shiprock, where we have students who transition between schools. And so right now, Kim Gallo and her team are working on how do we potentially zone our students and cluster them so that way we've paired where the 9th grade zone is going to be in the 10th grade, and recognizing there are some who may travel without, but we're reducing some of those elements because it is all about our controlled reentry. And you can see these are things that we've been doing. We have been incredibly active in trying to stay current with research, working with other districts, trying to make certain that we're considering all aspects of education. And that's incredibly difficult when we don't have one direction that we're moving in. So looking at the activities we have planned going forward, we know that Nicole is going to continue to work and negotiate our transportation terms with the bus company, trying to figure out how many students we can get in, taking a look and seeing if we get some guidance that loosens up some of these restrictions that allow more students on. We will be starting our extended school year program, ESY, on July 6th. We have gotten all of the approvals to do that. Additionally, we are looking to phase in. We have different phase-ins that happened. Our first phase was our custodians coming in, making certain everything was cleaned and sanitized and ready for the return. The next phase became clerical and administrative workers coming into the building as they are able to. We are looking at making certain that we're securing desk donations, knowing that we're moving away from tables and these collaborative equipments. We have 2 towns that are willing to partner with us to actually let us have desk donations that will afford us the opportunity to bring students in and keep them separated. And again, making certain that we then move forward to broadening up what the teams are going to look like as we expand to get more voices, hearing concerns. I already have parents who are calling me, some who are, how quick can you get them in, and some who are, I'm really scared, even if you do open school, I don't know if I can send my child in. And so making certain that we know what are the generalized guidelines before we start to individualize how we're going to support families. So we do know that some of the issues we have constant changing of guidance, and we are trying to keep up with what is the latest. We're chasing the next phase, come June 17th, that's when phase 2 comes in for Connecticut, and we loosen up a little bit more, and we are going to adjust accordingly. We are working closely with our legal counsel. We are making sure that everybody has the acknowledgement of risks. They know what it means when they're coming into school, and they acknowledge all the precautions we've taken, but we still know that we cannot guarantee that means that they're completely safe from COVID. So these are the things that we have going on. That's our overall what's happening. So I'm going to take a couple questions before I show the next part, which is a little bit more detailed.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we have all these parents sending their children to school, and now you're going to be confronted with parents who may want to and parents who may not want to. So how could you possibly handle all of that?
I will have disappointed people, yes. We cannot run 2 concurrent school systems.
Right, we can't. No.
So at some point, this is where we take the information we have, working with CDC, working with what are the best guidelines in order to bring children back in. If we can safely do it, we want to get them back in the building. If we cannot, we'll take them distance learning.
Have you spoken to our attorney, if necessary at all, on how you're going to handle those who may want to and those who may not want to? Is there any legal issues in how you're going to have to handle the situation?
I think there's legal issues to how we handle anything. The moment you have any kind of inconsistency, when you consistently close, that is your learning opportunity. And it's different when now you go to open, and what does that phasing look like? And that's why when I say that what's important is that we use our safety guidelines and what our experts are giving us, because I will tell you, I don't know if you all saw my resume, not one bit of it said epidemiologist. And so we're trying to really figure out what are those guidelines that they're telling us? What are the predictions? What is the rate of infection that we're looking at? If it's something in which we have a low rate of infection, we can bring children in safely, but we also know that there may be children who have some compromised immune systems. That's where we will have to work individually, but I cannot offer both a distance and a coming to school choice. At some point, we will have to make the choice, and then we will figure out how to accommodate from there.
Okay.
Other questions before I go into a little bit more? And I won't go into detail because I did share this with you all. So as you saw, this is our, hopefully, getting everybody to return from, it's the red carpet. We want to have that happen again in the fall. That is our goal, but again, safely coming back in the fall. I provided to you all with our reopening document. There is a link to our internal plan that right now, as far as phasing, it talks about some of the cleaning precautions that we have. It talks about how it's a rolling return. So that way we are safely figuring out how to zone people. We do require masks when people are in areas relatively near each other. And that said, we do ask that people are not congregating. Within that, we talk about some of the plan and how we are working with gathering the information. And again, you can go into it's 15 pages of this is what right now we have as our best guidance. And we use that as we're figuring out our logistics right now. But as you can see, and the thing that I think is most important is at the end of the day, the person who's directly responsible for the adherence to the plan is me. But that said, we are, like everything we do here in Region 12, we are taking a team approach. And so we broke down the factors in which the reopening has to do, in which you're looking at operation, health concerns, the education, and the facilities. all of these things need to be working together. If at any point, if I do not have custodians who are cleaning thoroughly, then we're going to end up having to close the schools. If I don't have people who are wearing masks and able to maintain that, I'm going to end up having to close the schools. If we cannot educate children in singular desks, that all of these things need to come in harmony in order for us to really bring children back into an educational environment in which they can thrive in. And so we're always looking at how do these interact with one another. And so that really does mean that we are regularly talking as a team on what happens. So when we talk about this is the district, my goal is to make certain that we are aligned for all of those health and safety, that we're staying connected to the state and communities and school leaders, establish communications, contract sourcing strategies, and also make certain that everybody is accountable. And even that is to say, we've talked to our staff members when they're coming back and saying, you need to use your voice. If somebody does not have a mask on, emailing me to complain about them not having a mask on is too late. You need to ask somebody and use our voices. So getting better about communication and sharing our own comforts and discomforts as we are returning. Under facilities, Don has been responsible for securing the PPE, for cleaning, sanitization, and sterilization. He is staffing to monitor the changes, meaning right now for our ESY program, we need to have an additional custodian who will be stationed at Burnham School to make certain that we are tending to those touch points, that we are tending to bathroom cleans, that the students' desks are wiped down, that everything is being controlled and managed in the safest way. There will also be monitoring for bathroom and cleaning checklists. We need to make certain that these bathrooms are regularly being cleaned and that everyone is aware and we are accountable to one another's health. And of course, Don doing spot checks to make certain that compliance is happening, that it's not just a checklist. The health and care, which is under the direction of Allie as the Director of Pupil Personnel Services, she is in charge of our nurses. So she's responsible for developing the summer school planning, training videos, health and safety plans, and also the COVID-19 tracing that happens within the school. And here again, it is working closely with our boards of health and also with our local hospitals to make certain that we are in alignment with the expectations. The building logistics, which is under the direction of our principals, they're responsible hallway travel, staggering some of those schedules. It may not be that next year the bell rings and everybody rushes into the hallway. We can't do that. So how do we zone for that? How do we control for how students are moving through that building? Lunch management. It may be that lunches are having to be consumed within the classroom. How are we making certain that, again, that we're being safe and we're not spreading across the building? There's the arrival and departure logistics, which include taking children's temperatures when they come into the building. How do you get kids to stand 6 feet apart when usually they're used to just, and I said, doing the bum rush into the building. Now we've got to have everything where it is controlled movement. Developing the schedules and making certain that there is adherence to those plans as well. Transportation falls under our Director of Finance. So Nicole has been working with the bus routes, seeing what we can do in order to figure out what does ridership look like. We're still having the conversation whether or not we have an opt-in or opt-out with the transportation. And some of that has to do with legislation. If we have to provide for every single student coming on the bus, logistically, I don't know how we're going to do that. So we also have to look at having bus monitors on. That's somebody who's going to take the children's temperatures getting onto the bus and make certain that they're staying in their seats, as well as looking at contractual negotiations that we have. Teresa's been looking at our instructional shifts. So she's been taking the feedback and working with the department chairs to make certain everybody has a clear understanding of what are our expectations. Looking at the shifts in platforms, really analyzing, was Zoom the best platform for us to use? Shall we continue to use Seesaw next year? Do we use Google Classroom? All of these things need to be evaluated. As well as working with the school leadership to make the instructional shifts to that individual learning environment. Technology, and here is where, as the board, you were absolute fortune tellers in what was going to happen, to know that we did not have to worry ourselves when we started distance learning with securing devices elsewhere. The only thing we needed to do was get devices in our kids' hands. You shifted to that one-to-one, and it really did pay off for us. We were really able to get and target what was the best type of devices for our students. So kindergarten first graders had iPads because they were consuming their information versus, the production materials of a Chromebook. And so taking a look at some of those things, this is where technology, knowing our inventory, being able to control what is our damaged equipment, and really making certain people had what they had needed in their hands. And then to say that we have to be looking at also safety. There is the element in which we recognize some of these drills that we've always done are going to put kids on top of each other. We recognize we have to change our visitor policies, and we have to secure the building, because at times, if we can get kids to learn outside, that may be creating more social distance for us, but it also creates different safety issues. So all of these things are moving parts that we recognize that everything has to fall upon each other. And how do we really start to recognize that as we're designing these logistics, we want safety and we want education. So at this time, I'll open it up to any questions, but I wanted you to know it's happening.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Under no circumstances, based on what you said, would I ever open the schools. You open us to liability in the millions, what you just said. Parents could sue us to kingdom come. If we're surviving with the current plan we're now using, where we're not open to liability, there is no reason to open taxpayers to a multi-million-dollar liability, which is opening the school. Based on what you just said, there's no way you can guarantee complete safety to the children.
You can't guarantee complete safety anytime, but I agree with what you're saying, and I think that there is, I will tell you right now, Pete, you're absolutely right, and Tom Mooney is on speed dial for us, because we do recognize that there's a lot going on, and that's where we are assessing the risks. I see Jen has a question.
All it takes is one kid to get the virus, and you'll be sued.
Yeah, but I just want to reiterate to Pete that this isn't Megan's guidelines. These are the state
No,
guidelines.
I understand that.
She herself is only doing what the state is telling her to do, and that is what it is. She doesn't have the choice to close the school down if the governor is saying school's going to be open.
Right, but we could continue the same service we're offering now. He didn't say you can't offer the same service you're currently offering. Don't get sued. It's so easy to get, if one kid gets a serious case or dies or becomes an invalid mentally, physically, whatever, you're going to get sued. It's easy to sue boards of education.
Pete, I don't know if you're listening to Jen, but this is, we're following state guidelines. There's no way that the state is going to allow every single district to open themselves up to lawsuits.
Or to choose.
There's a lot of really bright people working on this, Pete.
Right.
But on just what I just heard, Michael, I haven't heard anything that would open us up based on what the superintendent said, unless the state's going to back you up somehow.
And that is what they did when they started us off. Because if you remember, we wouldn't sign originally what the state had said for us to go to distance learning, recognizing what that opened up. And then the state just did an overarching, here's what we need you to do. You're closing down, we need you to close down. But that was after, painful deliberations that, superintendents had to have. And so now, as far as the reopening, it is looking for the guidance on where they are looking to go. But I can tell you that, there are risks that are involved in this, and those are all being evaluated.
What's the financial analysis of what it's going to cost us to do the things that they're telling us we would have to do? You're not going to be able to run the system on the same dollar.
No, we're not going to be able to, and that's where we're trying to figure out where, and that's why when I said that's why we're taking a locus of control with some of this budgeting, so that way we can account for some of the costs and what we're able to do. But this is where we will also have to work with our families and see what partnering will do and how many students really need that bus ride to school, and how many parents may say, you know what, I'll drive my child to school. But we are looking at all of those things.
Pete, hold on a second. I want to interject here.
Please.
One thing you have to remember is that as bad as we have problems relating to this, it's 10 to 100 times worse for other school districts. I mean, I have been listening to board chairs tell me they're worried about graduation. Things like, I don't know if I can guarantee equity because not every kid can have a car for a drive-in graduation. I mean, they're worried about things that are so far away from where we are. My guess is we'll figure out a way. This country has gone through some pretty amazing things in its history, and we'll figure out a way. Bear this in mind. If you took every kid in the district and put them up at Shiprock, you have almost 2/10 of an acre for every kid. Think about that. You got 130,000 square feet. If we have to run the school in the warmer months and not run it in the cold months in order to do this, we'll do it. There's 1,000 ways to skin the cat. Let's not worry about things when probably what we think are our minor side issues, other people are being buried. And they're going to cause a different approach to come out of Hartford. So I'm not worried. I think what we need to do is do exactly what the superintendent has done. Plan for every contingency we know about. Try to find out what are the things we don't know. And let's just not get crazy because everything changes by the day. Can you believe we've been at this? It seems like 2 years, not 3 months, 4 months. So I think we all need to take a step back and just calm down. We'll get through this. We'll figure it out. And we're not going to have 15 million lawsuits. And if we do, we've got good counsel and something the other people don't have, a $22 million budget. I think we're going to solve this problem. I think
my concern, does the superintendent have a plan?
We're not going to put our kids at risk under any circumstances.
If it doesn't work,
our kids will be safe.
If it doesn't work, we started out and all of a sudden there were complications. Does the superintendent have an alternate plan to handle complications?
Absolutely. And this is where we are still developing our distance learning plan. So we haven't stopped any of the planning. So we've got a plan that's if we are distance learning, we have a plan if it's a hybrid model, and we have a plan if we're in school. So we're truly trying to work all aspects. And, there's a possibility that we open and we may have to close down again. But I would rather have a plan in place because families were very kind to us and very supportive when we were reacting. Now's the time that we get to be proactive and think about how would we do things differently if we had to return to distance learning. So we're certainly evaluating all of those avenues of educating.
I'm sorry, I have to scroll through to find out if anyone else has a question. Okay, are there any other questions for the superintendent on COVID-19? Okay, I guess it's time for my report. I'm going to run through a bunch of things that I wanted to talk about. Any of you who have not seen the SVP project video, please see it. This is an amazing thing. These amazing kids have worked so hard to get where they are. And I'm telling you, I just don't know what this whole COVID thing has done for their learning program, but damn it, I can't wait till we get them back into where they are. This is one of the great programs, and it's the reason why Region 12 is a leader. And I'm so proud of them, and I'm so proud of our district for having done that. I wanted to point out to you that Isabella Guzman earned her 3rd place in this year's Skills 21 Expo Fest Comedy for a film challenge it's called Soup. You really need to see it. It's really cool. It'll put a smile on your face, and we continue to have amazingly creative kids in our district, and I am so proud of Isabella and every one of them that are out there doing this hard work. I had the benefit of attending Shiprock's awards night. I had to present for a scholarship, and I will tell you two observations. One, we seem to have no end to the talented, smart, amazing kids that come to our district. But two, we should consider doing this only in an online format, because number one, we got to actually see the kids receive their awards. We got to see their faces when they were told. We got to speak with them. We got to hear them. We got to interact. And because we didn't have a million hours taken with people walking back and forth to the program, to the podium to present, and students getting up to receive the awards, it actually cut the time by half an hour. It was a half an hour less long, and it was better and more better content. So I urge us to take that as an opportunity, just to see the kids alone, to not have them in some little corner of the stage you couldn't see. It was an amazing thing. And they are talented kids, and they deserve the accolades that they got. The parade routes, we had an issue related to the parade routes. We have now modified that to the extent to which the parade will assemble at Shiprock. It'll go through the depot, come into Roxbury, and now instead of bypassing the downtown of Roxbury, we'll go through the center of Roxbury on its way to the center of Bridgewater and finally to the fairgrounds. This is a situation where people spoke up and the administration and the board listened, and we made sure that we got a better parade. Because I'll tell you, it's funny. Yesterday, was it yesterday, I think, or the day before, my wife was at the parade in Watertown where she teaches, and she said it was absolutely amazing to see those kids coming through town and to celebrate those kids in that manner, and she thought it was terrific and they should do it every year. So I can tell you, I can't wait for our parade, and I'm glad we have better routes. I have been attending routinely the CABE Chairs Roundtable. I told you about some of the issues that are worrying other boards, whether they can get equity with not everybody has access to a car. They're doing drive-through graduations. They're also worried about preparing for next fall, and they've raised some of the same issues. I mean, you can talk all you want about where do we put the kids, and there are 5.6 million square feet of space at Shiprock, so you can spread them out, and we can get them all there if we had to. But I will tell you, putting them on the bus is the hardest problem. The buses are the real problem. And that's where the choke point is. So we're going to have to work on that. That's going to be a real challenge, and it's definitely a challenge for every district in the state. And that's why I'm less worried, because I think when we prepare for next fall, we're going to find we're in one of the most advantageous positions of all the districts in the state. And we certainly have the leadership team in place through our superintendent and her staff to get us to where we need to be. Ag STEM, we're moving on toward completion. The paving is virtually complete. Last Friday, the only thing they had left were 2 short sidewalks. The landscaping is moving along. The punch list is getting longer, but that's good because we're finding things and we're getting them fixed. And we had a meeting on site, a walkthrough of the project with Greg and Amelia from O&G's, the O and O&G. And it was a very good step forward to trying to get this project finished. Senior projects. I have had the board has been invited to a number of them. I've gone to a lot of them. I think they're absolutely spectacular. These kids are extremely talented. I have taken some time after each senior project to write a word of support and everything to the kids involved. I'd be happy to share those with you if you like, but I found interest in every single project that I attended, and I urge you, if you get a chance, go to a few of these. You'll be completely amazed that, well, you won't be, because you know these kids, you know how good they are, and the interesting projects that we've had are just tremendous. The last thing I want to mention is I want to give a shout out to all 11 members of the board, other than myself. You folks have walked in, especially the 4 who came here for the first time this year. We started this year in normalcy. We are ending it in the craziest situation anyone could ever imagine. We have had challenges to education, to our excellence. Every single way along the board, we have met those challenges. We have a leadership and administration that has put Shiprock on the map as the school district that is the model for what the state should be doing in distance learning. We have found kids who do better in distance learning, and we have found the shortcomings of it, and we have tried to compensate. And through that entire thing, every one of you has attended these ridiculous online meetings. You have contributed, you have worked, you have shared with us your expertise and your abilities beyond belief. And I want to say I've never been prouder to serve with a bunch of people, a group of people on a board that I have with you. And I thank you so much for everything you've done for our district, because you've done it for the kids. Your motivations are pure, and you should be proud of what you've done. I'll shut up now. Megan, your turn.
I'm clapping because I agree with that. You know, there's a lot of stories out there, and again, when you realize your grass is green, it's because of the support that has been given. And I'm gonna piggyback right off of what Greg said.
May I just ask you a question, Greg? I also wanted to tell you that I think you do a great job too, Greg. So that was one of the things that I had wanted to tell you when the time came. But also, there was the letter that we received through CABE about Betsy DeVos trying to or wanting to divert some of the funding that's supposed to go for public schools to private schools. Have you heard anything else through CABE or anywhere else about that, either you or Megan? I think that's something that maybe we should really take a stand on about you know, trying to stop that from happening, because that's just completely wrong. And that's one of the things when I said that I wanted to be on the Board of Education, I wanted to stand between our students and Betsy DeVos. And this is the time I feel like it's time to speak up about that.
Well, the only thing I can say is we don't get very much money from the federal or state government to begin with. I'm not sure there's any percentage to be gained in even addressing that issue, Mary.
I hear what you're saying, but you know what, Mary, in Title I is something in which I believe very strongly. Title I is to support, you know, students who economically are disadvantaged, or, you know, it's a way that we're able to support some of the students by providing some of those, you know, additional, you know, whether it's tutoring or things that we can take those monies for. It would be a change in direction, and it does divert some monies away. Now, absolutely, when we say what is large scale money, Greg is absolutely right. We're small scale, but it is one to say that it's shifting some of the nature of how public schools can do services for some of our most needy children. And that is something that I think that if this board does want to take a stance on, it's standing for children who need more, who need to have somebody be their voice.
I think that it's more than standing for the children in our district. I think it's more of a stand for public schools versus private schools and where the money goes. And I want public schools to get all the money they're entitled to. There's not enough as it is. So if all the money should go to the public schools, because that's where it's supposed to be going. So
well, Mary, the one thing I'll say is I am a believer in public schools. I was a product of public schools. I strongly believe in it. I don't know what battles can be fought, but I think we obviously want to see as much money as possible come into public schools. But you know, I think it was Tom Friedman, columnist with the New York Times, who said he's told his children every day when they wake up to thank God they were born in the United States. Well, I'll tell you, I thank God that I have the opportunity to live in the three greatest communities in the state of Connecticut that have unparalleled resources, decent, wonderful people who work hard and who don't ask for more than their fair share, but who provide and have generously provided for their kids. So I don't know what help we'll get from Washington, maybe not much. I think it's a shame, and I don't want to see money taken out, but I do think that we're lucky to live in a community of people that support the public education, and we have an excellent public education for the children of this region. And I think I'm just thrilled that our people are so supportive of it, and I hope they continue to be. So, good point. Okay, so Megan, I'm going to turn it back over to you for your report.
Okay. Well, what a year it's been. We'll just say. But I am so proud of our students, our staff, and our community for their efforts. You know, Greg, I'm going to echo, they have done a remarkable job. And any one of those things, even as excellent as it is, divorced from the other two does not make it happen. So this happened because everyone came together. And we really have become a pillar of how education can be done in any environment. And there is sometimes you do your job too well, because we do currently have 54 new applications. That is not continuing tuition in. That is new applications that we have to the district between New York residents coming in and tuition in. That's in addition to the 27 new agri-science that we have, and our new REACH students, which REACH is looking like it is at an all-time high of 54 right now. So whereas, you know, we used to wish, can't wait, get enrollment up, do all of those things, careful what you wish for, because it is fast and furious. Right now we are looking at how do we displace to make certain that we are able to adjust and accommodate for people who are coming in. But, you know, potential of 135 new students is both exciting and daunting and wonderful at the same time. And so we are working with our families to find out what is the right place, because we don't always have the ability to give their top school choice. But we are working with them that if they can't fit in one grade level at one school, we talk to them about a potential different elementary school. And we do have a wait list right now that is happening. So we are constantly looking at that. So I do want to say that we have so many things that we're going to talk about to be proud of. But I want to applaud all of the families and students who have given back to our communities during this pandemic. I've had students who've been making masks for daycares. We've had children working at food distribution locations. We've had kids tutoring their peers. We've had so much where it's coming together to support one another. It really is the working definition of community. And I also really, really, really need to commend our administrators. They were so hands-on throughout distance learning. They were doing regular meetings with their staff, check-ins, classroom visits, and all of these allowed our teachers to take educational risks. Every day there were optional professional development meetings where they explored how to better use Zoom and what are some of those technology opportunities. And all of these things made teachers feel more comfortable. I can tell you that I absolutely credit them to not only making people accountable, making them feel supported, and also making this successful. So they really were remarkable in this entire process. Our teachers are just amazing. Our custodians have been amazing. It's nothing but a gush fest. So in the worst of things that can happen, we really have seen the best in people. And through it all, we still managed to celebrate our students. So they held the scholarship night on June 10th. We also held the FFA Awards night on June 11th. There was the athletic night that happened on June 12th. We have the senior awards night, which will be happening tomorrow, June 16th. We have done 2 of the 3 Alohas, which have involved scavenger hunts, which have involved distance picture taking. It's been virtual videos. They've really made it where they have celebrated the kids throughout this. And it's sad that our guidance keeps changing, but we are very excited about our event, and hopefully we can have more relaxation of restrictions on Saturday evening at the Shiprock High School graduation. But for right now, Greg talked to you about our parade route, which we have expanded. So all 3 towns will have us pass those town halls as we land at the Bridgewater Fairgrounds. We have the video that is a full Spielberg production video. So thank you to Ben Allen, who even had us do, I think most of us were on 3 or 4 takes of our speeches, as he said to us, like, a little more passion. The way you ended it, you need to start it with. And so it was absolutely great, but he had you do the true walk on. So you get the full effect of what would happen. And at the conclusion of the video, we will have the procession off and they will process out, and we have confetti streamers that will be going off. And then those who want to accept their diplomas will drive off and come, and they'll be able to walk the stage, and their family will be able to get out and do the paparazzi moment. So a huge, huge thank you to Bridgewater Fire Department, who is making certain that the lights go on at the right time, so it will be brighter than daylight, even though it will be around 10 o'clock at night. And so we are so fortunate. Everybody just wants our kids to have the best. And a special thank you to Iron Bank, who got a sign that is 5 foot by 10 foot that congratulates our kids. You couldn't ask for a better sense of feeling supported as a student. So we're very, very excited about that. A letter will be going out to the parents, giving the exact guidance, and we'll move from there. And Jen, I see you have a question.
Just at some point, I would love to know a breakdown-ish of the 54 students that are coming in terms of grades and schools. I mean, I know you don't know necessarily the elementary schools, but I'm just curious to know how many of those students are coming to Shiprock.
Yep. Oh, I have that. I can easily get that to everybody right after that, because at this point we've asked our secretaries, as soon as we have inquiry. I mean, we have done this down to inquiries and which grade levels and where we've shifted them. We have working documents on who's tuitioned in, who's waitlisted, who's offered. So I'm happy to share the tally in the simplest of forms, because I can say everything else is constantly moving and shifting.
I understand. Thank you.
No, absolutely. Other questions?
I had a question. This is Julie.
Hey, Julie.
So maybe I missed it, but I know a lot of the community members are asking how they can support the graduation as far as the car parade. And so, like, when exactly can they be in the center of town? Where exactly could they be? And they don't want to miss it. So if there's a way to, I know you can't give exact, but be there by, say, in Bridgewater, 7 p.m., because they won't come to it until 7:10 or whatever it is.
Yep.
They know how they can be supportive and help.
I am happy to, and I do think, knowing that we've extended the car parade, we're leaving Shiprock at 7:30, but I can tell you to go down into Washington, turn us around on River Road, to then come back. It's gonna take some time, so I can certainly give approximate, and as long as everybody's willing to give me a 20-minute window on either side, we can certainly make certain that that information is out there. And I can say that we are looking to do a controlled tassel turn. So we are looking to make certain that elements that are important to our families, we just have to be very precise about how we do those things. And part of that precision is timing of that. So if people afford me a little bit of window, we can get that to everybody.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right. So going down into some of the personnel things that are happening, we have Amanda Phoenix, who is our English teacher at Shiprock, and she will be out to start the year, as she will be welcoming a child. So we're very excited for her. And I'm going to tell you, she's definitely, as I saw her the other day, she's all smiles, and I wish I was that happy pregnant person. That was not me. So good for her. And we will be working to create a long-term substitute so our students can be supported as we start school. We do have a retirement that I have to announce. And for anyone who does not know Susan Nicholas, she's our special education teacher at Shiprock. And she is a Shiprock legacy. So not only has she been a long-standing member of the faculty, she's also a graduate. She's the alumni. She's the one who gets other alumni to come and know about the happenings that's been going on. And she truly bleeds blue and white. So I think we're going to see her often, even in her retirement. But I think if we could look at what her legacy is she leaves a legacy of advocacy, support, and love. That is a outstanding career in Region 12. So we wish her happiness in her retirement. We also have a resignation. And you all know Lori Travato. She has presented at the board a number of times. Kim always calls our people who have started the program, be it students or teachers, that they are our pioneers. And this is truly our pioneer woman. She has done us proud as the first agri-science teacher at Shiprock School. She has the biggest heart. She is the sweetheart of agri-science, and I know that she's going to continue to bring joy to students and staff in her new school. And she really did bring a lot of passion, and she has set that stake high. So we know when we go to recruit, we need to match that energy, and we truly appreciate that. Additionally, we have some transfers. Christy Bloom will be returning as a literacy tutor to Washington Primary School. Christy had brought her talents to Booth Free's first grade this year as we had some transitions. And I will tell you, she did an outstanding job. She stepped in right before COVID, and she really helped guide those students through the transition to distance learning. She immediately created those connections with kids, which can be very hard to do virtually. So I know Washington Primary is very excited to have her return, but I also know that there's some broken hearts at Booth Free, as she really did an outstanding job there. And we have Britta Mercier, who will be joining. She will be the educational assistant at Washington Primary. So she had gone over and was the special education paraprofessional for a short time, and is now returning to her roots working with the REACH program. So we are excited. We know that she loves her students, and we're going to continue to see her do great things over at Washington Primary. And that concludes my changes and transitions that are happening.
Okay. I guess we'll move then on to John's report.
I've got a question.
Alex, go.
Yeah. Is now an appropriate time to talk about this letter about booth music? Or is that something that you want to handle at the administrative level?
At this point, I know that Kara also shared with us at the beginning of this. There's a lot of moving parts with this, including how much music that we're allowed to have next year, and what that all looks like in new configurations. So she's not wrong. There's been a lot of transitions. The good news is nobody has run away from Booth Free. So it is the idea that sometimes when you have a part-time person and they're offered a full-time opportunity, they're going to take that. So we can certainly look at how we utilize staff here within the district, but we can't just hire a full-time person for a part-time position. So
yeah. I just didn't want her to feel that her letter fell on deaf ears.
Oh, no, I agree with that 100%. And I will certainly respond back to her, because her point is well taken. And I love the fact that she values music as part of the student's experience, and that making it feel disjointed, it shouldn't be seen ever as a lesser content, because it really does. It's important for children having a well-rounded education.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. May I just say one thing about,
Go ahead,
may
Mary.
I just say one thing about that, Megan? It's when you sing, you give off a lot of air, and you also have a lot of aerosol. And as a dental hygienist, this is one of the things that's a big deal in the dentist's office, is the aerosols right now. And that's what they're talking about when they talk about music. A lot of the people that I know are musicians, and they sing, and they haven't been doing that because they have been asked not to perform because of the singing component. So that's where we may, all music may be changing for next year. So you're right about that.
Completely agree, Mary, and we're waiting for more guidance for that. So that's where it is a moving target, even under the best of circumstances. So good point. Thank you for sharing that.
Let it never be said how important music is to me, and I took those comments that she made very seriously. You may know, some of you may know, on Sunday I'm the organist and choir director at Christ Church in Roxbury, and let me tell you something. We've been told that if and when we ever come back to worship again, that you've got to keep soloists and people singing. No one's going to be allowed to sing in the church, and you've got to keep soloists 25 feet away from anybody else because of the distance that stuff. Mary, you make a great point. This is really going to be a challenge. And I will tell you that our choral director at the high school put on a wonderful presentation of our kids. However, I can tell you that I talked to her about it, and it was a lot of work to get one song out. But she had kids singing from all kinds of all their own distant homes and locations, and they managed to put it into one song that everybody was together. It took an awful lot of work, and I can tell you, it doesn't work on Zoom. If you had all of us started singing right now, we'd all, if one person played the music, we'd all be at different times.
We would be awesome, Greg.
I'm sorry?
We would be awesome. Just
well, we would be awesome, but it would sound like the Tower of Babel. It would be a little bit of cacophony. Because the timing doesn't work. You think we're all talking at the same time, but there's a slight delay. But I'll tell you, Beth Harbison did an absolutely spectacular job on that.
That song was so moving and it was so beautiful. I sobbed through the whole thing. I can't, and I love that there were alumni part of it. It was magical. She did an amazing job.
She is, and I failed to share with you all, and I am so proud, and I can't even believe that I forgot this. Shiprock Valley students will be part of the 5 Senses Festival. And they're it's going to be more of a safari, and there's going to be some remote opportunities. But they are working with Beth, and they are working with Linda McMillan and our entire arts department in order to do a full sensory of arts. And so to know that some of the things that Beth had done and that showcase, and it's going to be able to be brought into Pueblas's 5 Senses. And they think there's a potential for one of the songs from Little Shop of Horror that never got to be premiered, may be able to be incorporated into the festival. So to know our kids will always have a stage to shine on is exciting. So,
well, Megan, I think your biggest challenge is we have got to figure out a way to keep the arts alive. One of the greatest quotes attributed to Winston Churchill that he probably never said was his Chancellor of the Exchequer during the war was alleged to have said, well, look, we're going to have to marshal our money, and the only way to do it is to cancel the arts in our schools. And Churchill supposedly looked at him and said, what do you think we're fighting for? And that's really, I think, tells the story. Without the arts, our lives are dead. And we have to figure out a way to keep it. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but please make that a priority.
Always.
On it.
Okay. John.
Yeah, thanks. I also have to share that I shared that song with my sons, and I know that it made its way through the network to a lot of people who enjoyed it too. So the tradition continues. But in case you haven't been paying attention, COVID continues to wreak havoc on our budget, and will continue to do so into the foreseeable future. If you look at the recent fund balances, you'll see that quite a few accounts are in negative territory, and quite a few are in have a pretty healthy balance. And in tonight's agenda, Agenda G, item number 1, the tennis courts, you'll see how we're going to be able to use some of those unspent funds to help pay for the additional cost of the tennis courts. But $228,000 has been transferred into the 1% capital reserve fund, and that's good news. Unfortunately, unemployment compensation rates, due to not because of our unemployment, but because of the statewide claims, our rates have gone up to cover, the insurance pool. Also, at the last F&O, Nicole shared that bond and bond markets are very volatile, and presently there's little interest to purchasing bonds. So in order to finance the HVAC system, we're going to be forced to take a short-term loan rather than go right to bond. Hopefully, we can do it in either a 9-month, 12-month, or 18-month, and hopefully in the near future, we can roll that into a bond, that borrowing for the HVACs. And Megan mentioned the $20,000 for summer school transportation for 7 students. In addition to that, Nicole shared with us that there's a possibility that our regular transportation could run $300,000 to $400,000 more than what is currently budgeted for. So we're going to have some real challenges as far as the financial health of the region. And I imagine that the Facilities and Operations Committee is going to have some work to do along with the rest of the board to try to figure out ways to pay for all of the unforeseen expenses.
Well,
that's about it. I wish I had better news.
Well, it's time to start imbibing seriously after that. Let's move on to committee reports. Mary, do you have anything to add on CABE? Mary, you're muted.
I had wanted to speak as I did about the commissioner's letter that we all received. Also, there were when we went to the convention, I went to a few presentations on racism, and one of the best ones that I saw was a presentation by the town of Naugatuck, the high school there. It may have been in the entire school system. I don't exactly remember. I was going to check on that again and see if I could get more information, because that may be something that we might want to look at for next year. I just thought it was, out of all of them that I went to, that was by far the best.
And Mary, you touched on something that has been obviously in the news when it comes to issues with race. I'm incredibly proud to say that this year we were working on having these really strong conversations, and we had 2 speakers who came in and a series of presentations, having people recognize what are some privileges, what are some racial things that have happened, looking at what are some potential systemic racial divides that occur. And we are looking to continue to work with them for next year. But the thing that I'm most proud of is that we were not reactionary, that we really have seen that this is something that it should be part of the conversation. And it should be something that we are looking at and exploring. And I think any opportunity to have that conversation is a good one.
Yes, that the presentation, well, several of the presentations that I went to at the convention were about dealing with racism. Mm-hmm. So, but this one in Naugatuck was an unusual look at it. So I thought maybe that's something that we could take a look at. I'll follow up on that as we go along.
Oh, I
that's all that I
Thank
had. There's not much going on, but I'm thinking that maybe since CABE was the way that we actually received the letter from the commissioner about Betsy DeVos and her exploits, that maybe CABE is taking a stand on that. And I also wanted to see if I can get in touch with my friend Johanna Hayes and see if she could help out, since she happens to be on the education committee. So that's always good. So that's just something that bugs me. So I thought maybe I could follow up on that too. And I'll let you know what happens.
Well, thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mary, for following up. I appreciate that. Mike, curriculum educational programming.
Sure. Before I move into that, though, Greg, just to follow up on CABE for a moment, Megan had forwarded us an invitation to a webinar. I don't know if anybody else on the board attended that, but the kind of the intriguing name was boards, superintendents and boards of education know your students of color and staff are not okay. I thought it was, based on everything that had been going on in the news, that the least I could do was to go to that. And I think Cabe did record the webinar. So for those of you who weren't able to attend, it's about an hour and 15 minutes, I believe, and it's well worth your time, I think, to find out what's going on. They had a African-American woman presenter who's a Cabe consultant on issues of diversity, inclusivity, lots of different issues, including issues that even a district that's not exactly known for diversity should really be aware of. I think many of us as individuals, as individual board members, and even as a collective, need to be addressing systemic racism. So I think it would be important to educate yourself and to listen. So.
Thank you, Mike. Perhaps we can get that link. Megan, perhaps you can have someone find that link and share it with the board so we can all find how to get an opportunity to review that program. I think that would be incumbent on us to do. Okay, now, Mike, your report.
Yeah, on the curriculum side, we just had our meeting just before this board meeting, and one of the many topics that we talked about were some of the curriculum changes coming our way for next year. Teresa was focusing on mostly some changes at the middle school, but some really exciting different options for students to get them excited, both in not only in STEM, which seems like we're always talking about, even I think there's the little bit of a teaser of the possibility of looking at French culture and maybe even cuisine. Wouldn't that be wonderful for students to be able to have that experience? So that was one of the topics in terms of curriculum. There's also going to be a focus on a 9th grade team approach, which maybe Shiprock has always had because of our small size, but maybe a more of a real genuine focus on the 9th grade curriculum and working, having all the teachers work together towards common educational goals. And so I think we'll probably be talking more about that in the fall as well.
Sounds great, Mike. Sounds like you'll have a lot to tell us in the fall.
Yeah.
Okay, Alex, do you want to talk about finance and operations?
Okie doke. We have had one meeting since our last board meeting on February 18th. We met on the 1st of the month. The two primary issues that we talked about were the tennis court and the HVAC. I'm not going to go into detail about the tennis court because I see it's on the agenda just a couple items down. Just to be known, the HVAC system is where last report we were waiting for the units to arrive, and then the installation will take about a month. The pricing on the HVAC has gone up about 8.5%, just a little under that, since the original estimates were made, but they were made well over a year ago. So anyway, there may be a period where the Shiprock does not have air conditioning. Hopefully it's not on the hottest day of August, but hopefully they'll get it in the within a month or so. And that's really all I have to say.
Okay. Jim, labor.
As far as I know, there are no negotiations pending. So everything is done as of this time.
Okay. That's good. We move on to strategic long-range planning. Julie?
Yeah, we had a meeting with Sandra Max on June 9th with Megan and Mike Croft and myself and the two representatives from the company. They presented us with a first draft of the digital brochure and some branding concepts, and we gave them what I thought was some very constructive feedback. And we've since sent that additional information out, not just to our committee members who have been helpful in sending in comments, but also to some community people, people with some marketing experience, some parents and so forth. And we've gotten some more good feedback. I think they're doing a good job, and I sort of had a side conversation with Megan about time is important, but I want to make sure, we all want to make sure that this is really good and really right. And it was a little, their initial take was just a little too generic, and we didn't feel that it really capitalized on all the wonderful things about our district. And so we're working on that. So we've got a ways to go, but we are working on it, and we're working pretty hard on that and making that our focus right now.
Okay, I think this is a really important thing that you guys are doing. So please give it a lot of press. Obviously, we're doing something right if we have 134 new student applications for next year. But hey, you know, the district was almost twice the size it is now when I moved here 25 years ago. So we have some room to grow. Okay. If there's nothing else on committee reports, we'll move on to new business and updates. Tennis courts. I guess Megan and Nicole could give us, we have both good news and bad news, but also good news.
We had a problem and we're sharing the solution. And we also have, Matt Parachi, who's here as well. So that way, if there's any, questions people have or some of the, strategic planning that we have. But what happened was when we had put out the tennis courts to bid, the numbers that came in were significantly higher than we had anticipated. And we actually were, the difference came down to about $110,000 difference between what we had encumbered in the 2018-2019 school year and what was being asked. So with that said, what I'm going to do is share with you my screen and show how we came up with, and when I say we, how the team came up with the solution and some opportunities in order to capture the additional funding that is needed in order to actually build the tennis courts. So the first thing that we did was we looked at what, because of our shutdown, did not happen within our athletic line. And what you see is these were the cost savings that we had. So we had encumbered the $280,000 that came from the 18-19. And Nicole, thank you so much for putting together a spreadsheet, because the only thing I'm going to do is talk through the numbers. But because we did not have any referees or sports officials, we saved $17,000 there. Without using the athletic trainer, as you can see, we have approximately $5,200 there. Again, looking at some of the other equipment that we have that we did not spend on, coaching stipends at both levels, athletic field maintenance, pool supplies, the pool propane gas that we did not utilize during the shutdown. What you see is that we are able to cover the cost for the entire tennis courts, in which we did not go into any other budget line item. We remained within the athletics in order to make certain that we can move forward with the courts. Nicole,
So Megan, I just want to make it clear for people, you encumbered 280, and then the price grew when we bid it to 390. You have found 403.8 of available money.
Yep. So at this point, Nicole, do you want to talk to?
So what was the question, Greg?
Well, what I'm saying is that you encumbered 280. So we have 280.
Correct.
And it's important that, we try to do this now, or we're going to lose the 280 at the end of the fiscal year. So we've got 280, and it's going to cost you 390 to do the court, because by the time we bid it all out with all the options and extra things we needed, it was at 390. So you were you had 110 to deal with. So in order to cover the 390, you have found a total of 403,000, with savings in the athletic department. So without even going out of the athletic department with money we haven't spent, we have more than enough to cover the 390. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yes, correct. And that's the exercise that this Excel spreadsheet supports, is what budget line items have what balances remaining in this year's 1920 budget that we can use to support the shortage that we realized when we put the proposal out. The only thing that might require a little explanation is line 3, the sports officials fees. And Matt may be able to explain this if I explain it wrong, but we pay a company that processes our officials fees for us, and we load that account every year. And we had loaded it in January for our winter and spring sports seasons, and the balance left with that company on account was $17,000, which we did not dip into. So that amount was paid in this year's fees, but we will use it next year. So those fees are a savings in next year's budget because of the carryover that the account was loaded with this year. So that $17,000 is actually a next year number that'll go toward the courts, and the rest is 1920.
Greg,
Greg?
you still there?
Yeah, are you there? You want to speak first, Alex?
Go ahead, Pete.
Based on the uncertainties of what I've heard from the superintendent relevant to how we're going to run the educational system, if at all, normally, I believe our costs are going to run in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's no doubt in my mind we're in for something we never, ever predicted. And to spend $400,000 so people can bounce a ball across the net in this environment, which we really don't know what's coming in the next 6, 12, 8 months, especially since we don't have a vaccine. So we're Rube Goldberging everything we can in every way to get the system to run. But from what I've heard from the superintendent, we have no concept of what school is going to be like in the upcoming year. I'm not sure the state knows. So, and I don't know if we're going to get a resurgence with everybody out and staying in. It's obvious you're going to get a bump up. And I can't see, I'm not against the tennis courts. I voted for that. But right now, in the situation we are in right now, I wouldn't spend $400,000 on any sport. Who knows if you're going to have kids, who's going to get out there and play? What's going to happen? How are you going to have competition by going to other schools? I think our current situation does not recommend that we spend $400,000 right now without having any concept of all what we're going to have to spend to run the educational system next year.
Well,
not against it, but I wouldn't spend the money right now.
Alex?
Well, let Nicole speak first, please.
I'm sorry, Nicole.
So, Pete, to your point, I agree with you. We have a lot of unexpected expenses coming up that we're going to have to deal with. And if this $400,000 could be repurposed to support those expenses, then that would be a discussion. But this $400,000 is not something we can transfer to next year to spend on unknowns. The $280,000 has been encumbered from last year's budget and either needs to be spent on the tennis courts or it needs to be returned to the towns. And the additional money that are in this year's athletic budget, we would need to know what those are going to pay for specifically with quotes at hand in order to encumber those funds to be used next year. And since we have 15 days left in this fiscal year, and there are still so many unknowns, it's very unlikely that we'll be able to encumber any of those funds for any of those unknowns within the next 15 days. So that money that $400,000 will not be spent if it's not spent on the tennis courts.
Could I just add, I just want to say something because I know there are other people on the call who are not used to these budget discussions. They're not on the board. And I just want to make it clear what Nicole just said is if we do not spend this money on the tennis court, all of this money will end up going back to the towns. We will not be able to retain it. We will not be able to save it for a rainy day because unlike, towns are allowed to save money for a rainy day, boards of education or not. Now, towns, when they put money for a certain specific thing in their budget, they've got to spend it on that thing. You put money in for a tennis court for the town of Roxbury, Roxbury's got to spend that money on the tennis court. They don't get to move it over to cover some other issue. But Roxbury's allowed to save an unlimited amount of money for a rainy day. Boards of education can move the money around within the budget. If we put it for a tennis court, we can spend it on something else if we have something else to spend, and we really don't at this point. Otherwise, the money has to go back to the town because we're not allowed to save for a rainy day. So that has to do with budgeting. It's complicated. It's difficult. But the other thing you got to remember is if there's any sport we're going to be playing besides golf that's made for social distancing, tennis is probably right up there on the list. So there are going to be a lot of sports that are going to be hard to play, but tennis is not going to be one of them. And so there's some sense that when we come back in the fall, this is an opportunity, and our courts are really awful. But anyway, Justin, you had a... Oh, you're muted.
I'm not sure if the public's, the public being allowed to play on the new courts, but I mean, if and when they are, I mean, that's free marketing, basically, getting people to see what has been built. So I think it's great that we get new tennis courts.
Okay. I'm sorry, I have to go through it. I have to keep going through screens to find people. Jen?
I just want to say that I'm in support of this. Obviously, the funds are there. It's a no-brainer. And I think we need to be as supportive to all of our sports teams as much as we are to the music program. And this is just, I'm 100% behind this.
Okay. I thought I saw John with a question.
I was going to say to Pete, this was meant to be, Pete. We have the remainder from the athletic department. We came up short on the encumbrance, so let's use the money and do it. I want to ask Matt, what are the projections as far as physical education or sports teams like basketball and the contact sports? I know you can't predict the future, but what are you hearing?
Well, there's a three-tiered plan now that the CIAC has, and they're obviously all dependent upon what the governor's guidance is and what he allows. But they have three different levels of sports. There's low risk, there's moderate risk, there's high risk, with things like tennis and cross country being low risk. Moderate risk would be something like soccer and sports like basketball and football, which is obviously not something that we sponsor. Would be high risk, and to go along with those three different levels of risk, there's three different stages. Right now, we're in a stage where coaches are allowed to have virtual contact with their kids. Then it's going to move. The projected date is July 6th to August 2nd. Is a low risk stage where people are allowed to condition in cohorts of 5 to 10 with all kinds of different regulations on there, and then from August 2nd to August 31st, they're going to move to another stage. So there's a plan in place to go almost full scale. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of different considerations that we're going to have to make. One of the biggest ones is going to be busing, and you can see earlier from Megan's projections or her spreadsheets that talked about the beginning of the school year next year. There's probably going to be a limitation of how many kids can be on a bus together. So we may have to get very creative in some of our scheduling, and as far as maybe doing weekend games when we have more buses available. And this is a conversation that I obviously am going to have with Megan and Nicole and Kim. And I've been holding off on having this until after June 20th when we graduate, because right now we got there's so many moving parts to just getting through this year. But to answer your question, John, right now there's a plan in place, and they're planning on moving ahead with a full-scale athletic program that is going to look a lot different than what we've done before because of all the different safeguards and regulations that we're going to have to place. And it's anyone's guess whether these timelines are going to be realistic or not. But I mean, there is a plan in place, and I'm looking at it optimistically until we're told otherwise. We're just going to plan to go forward and follow the guidance and just be flexible because it's such a fluid situation. So hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I think, who did I say was next? I think it was Lisa.
I think so. I just want to say that I definitely support the tennis courts, and we've needed to have new ones for a long time. So it's kind of serendipitous that I think we have this money now, and understanding that if we don't use it, we'll lose it. So, and I also like Justin's comment that it is something that the town can use. But this virus won't be here forever. I know I'm being more optimistic, but we're going to need tennis courts, and I think we should definitely move forward with that. And I just think that it's wonderful that we have that opportunity right now. I've found money. So thank you, Nicole, and everybody who were able to make that happen.
All right. I think Mary's next.
Yes, I also wanted to say that I'm in favor of doing the tennis courts. To use it or lose it money, we can't afford to do that because at another time, it just may never be available to us again. It is now. We should go forward with it. And we at this time, we don't want to take anything away from the communities. The people in the communities come to use our tennis courts, and I want that to be available to them. That's also a way to bring them into Shiprock to be able to see all the wonderful things that are happening there. So I definitely want to get this done so that our communities can enjoy it as well as our students.
So the good news about all of this is that it's still all within the purview of things we need to do. So I love having all of the support, and I understand it does not need to have a vote on it because it does fall within athletics and what we're doing. So to say that at this point, I love hearing the input and wanted to make certain that we are being transparent about our actions that we are taking.
All right. Is anybody who's not had a chance to talk want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, Greg, let me just clarify an issue for those that really follow the numbers. The 280 is based on an estimate from 3 years ago. And the current number is not really 390. It's 390 with $26,000 worth of extras. Extras being things like screening to keep the wind down and things of that nature. So the price really went from 280 to 364 in 3 years. And if you do the math on it, that's a 9% increase per year, which is not a ridiculous number. But we did find that we only got 2 bids on the tennis courts. And I was a little surprised that they came in as high as they did. I thought people might be desperate for the work, but obviously they're not. So anyway, and obviously also I am for the tennis courts.
All right, Al, it sounds like that there are a limited number of potential bidders out there for this kind of work for a post-tension concrete court. I honestly think if we do well at maintaining this court and stay on top of the maintenance, obviously Don will have to remain with us for another 100 years. We may just find we get more than the 20-year guarantee out of it, and I think that's what we have to push for. To have a quality thing. Okay, is there any further comment? Does anyone else wish to weigh in? Looking at the time being 8:55 and we still have a fair amount of agenda, I'd like to move on to, we don't need a vote, so it's just a matter of information. So you now have it. Let's move on to graduation plans. I'm sure this will take like 3 seconds.
3 seconds. And even then I highlighted, so this way we do not have to. So as far as we met with the families another time, so we had updated some of the changes and we really heard people who had wanted to walk the stage, and, you know, we were able to have the conversation. They had board members present, and I appreciate those who came out to hear our families and hear the concerns. So things that we have done that are going to be additional. Number one, anybody who wants to get to Shiprock a little early, we are lining up families alphabetically. So there will be a parking spot that has the family's name written out. They will just drive into the parking spot. But if you want to do pictures at Shiprock, knowing that at 7 o'clock we are going to start the actual lineup, we'd like those to happen in advance. The graduation stage has been underway. A big thank you to Stones by George, because he has put together our graduation stage. So anyone who wants to have some of those traditional pictures will have that. We are sharing our graduation parade route. And again, what we talked about, see how you go past the Washington Town Hall, you go through Roxbury, over Weller's Bridge, and then coming back around Bridgewater, and that's where we are going to host our entire ceremony. So we will have all 3 towns incorporated. That said, Kim Gallo is actually starting this parade early. She will be starting in Sherman. So she'll be starting at 6 o'clock to make certain that our students from Sherman can get their route, so they can drive around their town as well. So we really have tried to include everyone. And just some other things that we have here. Families must remain in their cars. And right now the guidance is with windows up due to the proximity. We're trying to get some more spacing in between. I can tell you right now the weather forecast for Saturday is 91 degrees. That said, we're graduating at 9 o'clock at night, so it's going to cool down a bit. So idling cars is not going to help that heat. So we're certainly, you know, watching for things that we can do to reduce some of those restrictions. But then what we're going to do is the tassel turn is that we will have kids out 1 row at a time. We will have them announce, and they can turn their tassels 1 row at a time to then return back into the cars. And then as they go to leave, what's going to happen is those who want to exit will just be able to leave the grounds. Those who want to come back around will be able to drive right back up and through. And then from there, we will have people drive up. They get to still be seen by their peers, etc., as people walk across the stage. They will have the opportunity to have their pictures taken. We will have plenty of our police and safety. We have, I believe, 9 of the Bridgewater firefighters who are helping us at this event. So really a wonderful support team that we have. I'm also including in this letter that will go out to our families the guidance that we've received from the commissioner and guidance that we've received from the Department of Health. I don't want anybody to think this is just coming from me because I like having people in hot cars. These are the guidance and the guiding principles that are keeping us a little more restrictive than people want to be in order to get us a little more traditional. So that includes some of the changes we already talked about, the graduation, so I won't belabor the point.
Okay, Mary.
Yes, I'm going to ask the other board members to do some of the same things that I am. To get the information out, in Washington, there's a Facebook page called Washington Happenings, and I'm on other Washington sites too. And I'm going to ask the other members of the board if you're on any other Facebook pages or Instagram that you can highlight this and tell them what's happening and when, so that they can be on people can be on the parade route.
I love that. If you can wait until tomorrow at noon, I'd like to just get the letter out to our families so they're prepared first, but absolutely after that. So I will, at noon, have at it. Give it to the world.
All right, Jen.
Sounds good.
I just want to personally thank Megan for all her hard work and dedication to the students and the families, as this has been absolutely heart-wrenching for all of the families and students. And you have really worked hard to listen to everybody and to accommodate as much as you can. And I know it hasn't been easy. So I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
You really have done a great job.
I want to second that.
Oh, well, and again, I thank all of you who've come out and heard the passion of our parents, and that's really what it came down to. So thank you all.
Well, I think that means a lot. Lisa, I know you've been tied in to the community in Roxbury and other towns, and you've heard these people, and you've really tried hard to get this thing harmonized, and so that means a lot. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you, Megan. I just wanted to second what Jen said, and to you and Kim, because I know how hard you've worked, and I think we're going to do it.
I will be
Saturday.
I will be happy on Sunday. But yes.
I know, Sunday.
Well, it will be the most unusual graduation in history, but I think it'll be pretty good. It'll be special, and that's what matters, because these kids deserve a special graduation. God, I feel bad for them having this point, but they are so wonderful, talented. I wish you could all have attended every one of these senior projects, and you'd see what this class is, and it's amazing. And I think they deserve this. They really do. I'm absolutely thrilled that we're able to provide what we are, and I know that the superintendent is looking every day to see what loosens up, what other options are available. And the thing I really want to thank her for is, unlike some districts that went out there, they got ahead of it and they said, here's what we're going to have, and they had to pare it back, and they had to take things back, and they had to say, no, we can't do that. And they got turned down. They said, sorry. We didn't have to say sorry. The only thing the superintendent has said is, okay, when the opportunity presented itself that we could have that. That's a big difference. So, okay. Summer school. Poor Allie has been waiting here all night, and I have heard from so many people in the last few days of the great job that she does. Now you're going to solve the problem of summer school. Please tell us.
Allie, would you like me to show the presentation, the word? Are you okay just talking through it?
I have my notes so I can talk to it. All right, so our ESY, or Extended School Year program, is going to run just like it has in the summers past. We run generally the month of July, so this year it's going to be July 6th through the 30th. We run Monday through Thursday, and the program generally runs for many students 3 hours, 8 to 11, but for some students who have very specific needs, a shorter day from 8 to 9:30. So we're going to continue to run those programs. This year, because of some restrictions that the governor's document or the governor's guidance has given us, we're going to have 2 elementary classes, 1 middle and high school class. We're going to have 1 class of just reading specific students who have specific reading needs. And we're going to have preschoolers come in a very different way than we've had in the past. Because we can't have visitors this year, we can't invite our friends to our preschool program. And so since there are only a few students with IEP needs, we're going to be arranging a very specific program for them with the preschool teacher. So we do have what we would call 5 classes that are ongoing and in person this summer. As I mentioned before, no visitors are allowed in, which is different. There will be no food, so no snack time as part of the program this year. We're going to provide water bottles for students since we're not bringing things in from home. The governor's guidance highly recommends parent transportation, but we are required to provide transportation if a parent needs it. And the students aren't going to bring any materials into our program. So I sort of thought about the program as it was, as I was outlining the information for everyone, as sort of what are we doing in advance of summer school? What do we do upon arrival at summer school? So there was a lot of work with the governor's document. There was a lot of work at central office with teams of people to help me figure pieces out. There was a lot of brainstorming. There was meetings with nurses and our medical advisor, Dr. Christy Beck, to help us figure out the safest way to proceed. And so initially right now, well, what's been put into place right now is we're working on getting training videos for everyone, staff and students and families, just around the idea of personal protective equipment and how you wear it and why we wear it and social distancing and what that is, because you have to understand that we're talking to preschoolers all the way up through high school students. So we're considering the right way to do that. We're talking about the correct hygiene and all those kind of trainings around how we sneeze, how we cough, how we wash our hands, all those pieces. So that kind of training document will be handed out in advance of summer school so that parents can begin that work with their students now in advance in preparation for July. Transportation, while parent transportation is encouraged, as you heard from Megan earlier, we definitely have some students that require transportation. So in addition to the transportation, the buses that we need to hire bus monitors to take temperatures before students get on the bus and to make sure students continue to wear their mask when they're on the bus and make sure that students are sitting in the right formation, because there's a very specific plan that the governor's task force has laid out about how students are to sit safely on the bus. So those things have been put into place and considered. When students arrive at summer school, there will be a nurse or myself will be taking temperatures as students are getting dropped off. We'll be asking families to stay while we take temperatures. If the student's temperature is over 100 degrees, they won't be able to come into the building. That's the same for staff. So staff will be coming in to, the nurse will be the first one to arrive at Burnham School this summer, and she'll be taking temperatures of everyone as they come into the building. So we're going to be using touchless thermometers so that we can do that hopefully in a speedy way. And additionally, with the nurses this year, there's going to be 2 nurses' offices, just 1 nurse, but 2 offices, one for the basic bumps and boo-boos, the student that needs a Band-Aid for the cut they got last night that the Band-Aid's fallen off. But additionally, there'll be a nurse's office for students who are suspected potentially of having COVID-like symptoms. And so we have designated the nurse's office that exists in the main office right now as that bumps and Band-Aids nurse's office. And then we have another room at Burnham School that will be set up as a secondary nurse's office that's considered more of an isolation room. So if we do have a student who does show those symptoms, we can make sure we isolate them away from the rest of the group. Nurses are going to work really hard this summer. They've always called for attendance purposes, but they're going to be monitoring attendance and absenteeism, and they're going to be making sure that they're checking in on why students are away. We often have students missing portions of summer school just because of the fact that it's July, and sometimes family vacations are set up around that, or there's special events happening. So we've asked parents in advance to let us know if there's any specific days that they won't be around, but nurses will be calling to check on absences and to make sure that we're monitoring are there COVID symptoms in students that aren't coming into school, and what do we need to do with that. If a student is sent home sick, we'll need to have a doctor's note telling the school that they can come back the next day or when they can come back. The guidance has given out a lot about class size and restrictions about that. There's no more than 10 individuals in a classroom with a teacher. So individuals doesn't necessarily just mean students. It could mean the additional paraprofessional support that's in the classrooms for students who have physical needs or such. So we're lucky in the sense that we're able to staff 2 elementary rooms that there's 1 teacher and 5 students in one room with 2 paraprofessionals, and 1 teacher with 6 students in another room with 2 paraprofessionals. So we are under that ratio. We're going to be making sure that our desks are turned forward, not facing each other, to limit the spread of anything that could be out there. We're limiting the contact of a smaller group with the larger group. So we do have 22 students coming to our extended school year program, and each of them will be in their own space in the building. So for those of you that know Burnham School, the classrooms that are the K2 designated classrooms that are on the front side of the building that are off of the gym actually have their own entrances from the outside into the classroom. And those classrooms also have their own bathrooms. So those elementary rooms will be self-contained. so the students won't have to leave or move through the hallways and potentially encounter other students. The reading group that we are going to have come in will walk in the doorway in the parking lot area and go straight downstairs to their classroom, which will be the art room, and their bathroom will be across the hall from them, so they will be in the lower level by themselves with their teacher and their paraprofessional. And then the middle high school group will actually enter through what must have been the old front doors to Burnham School. And they open straight into a classroom right now, and so that will be their entrance and exit. So even though we have 22 students together, we really only have groups of at most 6 who will be hopefully only exposed to those students. So the fact that they're self-contained hopefully will help us not have to worry about the contact tracing. If we do have, we'll know exactly who they've come into contact with, what providers, what teachers, what paraprofessionals, what other students will be in their classrooms. So we're hoping that special thing that Burnham has, which I never really appreciated until we started to plan this year, is this amazing exits and entrances of their own. So that's worked out beautifully. Masks, every student must wear a mask, and so do staff members. The district will provide a mask for staff or students if they don't have one. We're encouraging parents who are worried about the masks on their little ones to talk with their students about maybe a great fun cloth mask that might have Superman or whatever their love is on it, to hopefully engage them in trying to wear it. So masks will be worn. If a staff member has to get closer contact than 6 feet, which we generally do, they'll be wearing a surgical mask, not a cloth mask anymore, and now a face shield in addition. So we're prepping our students right now. One of our speech pathologists is working very hard on getting, for students who are going to have a harder time with this, we're working on sending pictures of all of their staff members, a picture without a mask, a picture with a mask, so that everybody's a little bit prepared for what this will look like, because this will definitely be different for everyone. Materials, there's no sharing of materials this year. So we can't have students using, like materials. We can't be grabbing from the same box of crayons. We can't be grabbing from the same box of markers. And so that has required us to get little bins for each of the students to keep all of their materials in, and purchase separate sets of markers and crayons for the kiddos, making sure that we have, looking for materials, making sure we have what everybody needs, rulers, scissors, all of those kind of things that will be kept in their own boxes and will be disinfected at the end of the day, but kept in their own boxes. We're trying to make sure that we keep teaching teams similar, so there's no sort of cross-contamination as per the guidance as well. Each group has their own identified bathroom. There will be a separate bathroom identified next to that isolation nurse's office for anybody that happens to be exhibiting those symptoms and using that isolation nurse's office. There'll be a bathroom that only those students will use as well. As Megan mentioned, an additional custodian will be assigned to support the cleaning efforts. We'll have to post signs about stopping the spread, about hand washing, about social distancing. All rooms will be clean and disinfected 2 times a day, and the high touch areas are going to be spot disinfected throughout the day. Cleaning logs will be implemented by our custodial staff and monitored by our director of facilities. And alcohol sanitizers will be posted at each of the entrances and in all of the classrooms per the guidance as well. So that's a quick overview of our summer program. We are looking forward to it, getting back in to see our students face to face. And to be honest, I looked at last year's, we tend to invite, 35 to 40 students to our program every year. We tend to get 25 to 30 kids from year to year. I looked at last year's numbers just because I wanted to understand how 22 stood sort of in respect to other years. And last year we had 28 students, and in 2018 extended school year we had 23. So 22 isn't too far off the mark. But we are looking forward to getting into seeing our students and doing some in-person work. As much as the online work has been amazing with the live Zooms and the live Google, the time we've spent with students, it is, it's seeing students face to face and helping them through their educational programs in person is obviously what we hope to do, and that's what we do the job for. So we're excited about the opportunity to open up and hope that we, know that we can do a good job for the district and are excited to be one of the districts moving forward with the governor's guidance.
Allie, thank you. I know there'll be some questions. All I can say is that there's going to be a time when I think we've now changed the term BC to be before COVID.
Yes,
and,
for sure.
It's clearly a different regime after COVID. And thank you for the thorough presentation. And you put my mind at ease a lot that you've really gone out of the, out of the box to try to think of everything that we could have to run up against. And who would have thought that our quirky, ridiculous school buildings that no one would ever build suddenly have advantages?
They're perfect.
You never know.
You never know. It's really, and we've been lucky to be at Burnham the last couple of years. And we were sort of, because Shiprock was under construction, we had moved out of Shiprock, but Burnham's been a wonderful fit. And I couldn't imagine another place that could do exactly what Burnham is able to do for us right now. So that, so I'm grateful for that, for sure.
Well, of course, we all always knew that we needed to keep all these buildings, but here we are. Questions? Pete.
Based on what I've been listening to between tennis courts and this and everything else we haven't heard yet or will hear from, I hope we have enough contingency built in this operating budget to run this system without having asked the taxpayers for another $1 million or $2 million. Because I've never heard things that sound so not cost effective, but cost wise. So I don't know what the superintendent and the business manager are working on, but I don't feel comfortable with what I've heard so far from either of them, who are board members, and how you're going to run everything with the current money you have in the operating budget.
Well, I think, Pete, at least for the special ed component of things, at least for ESY, so what I've reviewed, I do think that we're going to be under we're going to be under or be at even with my summer program, just because, yes, I have more staff than I had last year in the classrooms, but I ran different programs last year that I can't run right now. So as Greg mentioned, my SVP students, they would normally be going out to a job this summer and have a job coach. We can't keep them safe when we're not checking temperatures of people walking into the businesses that they work in. So those students are doing something different this summer than they've done in the past. We used to take we had a social skills program that came, and we would run field trips, and we would pay for the cost of the field trips, and we would access volunteers from Shiprock to come up and support our students in the program. Since we can't have visitors this year, we can't run those programs. So there's a cost savings. So yes, we are spending some more money in areas we didn't spend last year, but we are saving money in areas of parts of programs we just can't run because of the governor's guidance. So I think, at least as far as the special ed component goes, we are keeping ourselves within what's been budgeted for the summer school, at least in the area of supplies and people and personnel to run the program. So I do know.
I have no problem with all these proposals because that's what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm not adverse to all the proposals. What my issue is that we're doing it with the same budget we budgeted for, but we didn't budget for all of the aspects of what we're running into because of the current situations. That's my concern. I'm not concerned about people aren't doing their job, or et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that I don't believe we built enough into the budget to do some of the things the board wants to do. If they feel are necessary. So that's my issue, because I believe sometime next year, we're going to have to go back to the public. That's my honest opinion. Based on the pandemic and what it's causing throughout society, I honestly believe we have to go back to the public. That's my honest opinion.
And that's one of the reasons we are keeping it close, control when we talk about budget and not letting things go. I can tell you, we talk to our administrators about not going into what are the regular practices of, buying the birthday banners and all of these other things, where we're saying, what do you need? And doing a needs assessment. Allie talked about the fact that, there's not going to be field trips. That's a cost savings that we're going to use money to do something else with. So there are certainly things that, because it's restrictions, that we may not be able to do, that we'll use that money in order to make certain that the system goes. And the thing that we've said throughout all of this, people matter. People absolutely matter. And we've been looking at our personnel and what do we need to have. And so everything we're doing is projecting forward. And we are trying to be very fiscally responsible and conservative for what we don't know are some of the unknowns. But I can tell you that right now, everything that we've done, we are accounting for. We are questioning. We're asking people to double check. We are not just doing things out of routine. We talked about the desks that right now we're going to be getting. It's because I had a conversation with the superintendents in Bethel and in Winsted. And they said, oh, we have desks we're looking to get rid of. Perfect. That's not a cost that's going to come onto the district. Let's see if we can't individualize. So we're trying to be resourceful, but it's also taking and shifting some of the costs that we may save money on in one place, putting them to something that is unexpected. Because you're absolutely right, Pete. We didn't project for this when we were budgeting. But there's also some things that we aren't going to be able to do that we were budgeting for as well.
Okay, John and then Lisa. John, you're muted.
Thanks for listing the lineup on the down below here. But
Yeah, I'm trying
two quick questions. What is the projected additional cost for this program this summer? And is there any possibility that the federal COVID Relief Act dollars will trickle down to the State Department of Education, especially for special education? Where is that money from the federal government that has already been appropriated?
That sounds like it's a question for Nicole. So in hearing Allie, as she said, it looks like it's a cost neutral for summer school this year because of the fact that whereas we saved in not doing some of the field trips, we spent more in some of the additional staffing. So it balanced itself out. So we weren't looking at an uptick of costs. But Nicole, do you want to talk about the COVID relief funds and how that actually works? Because it's not just extra money that would come to us.
So the first batch, the first release of the federal funds that made it down to the state of Connecticut Department of Education, the state has appropriated, and Region 12's share is $24,000. It's done in accordance with our Title I calculation. So that $24,000 is from the first release. I haven't heard yet that they have released the second round, although they are talking about it. So we'll have more information, hopefully in the weeks very soon, so that we can plan appropriately. But right now we don't have further information on what that amount will be or if they will distribute it in the same manner. Title I is our lowest grant funding. So our percentage does not work out in our favor if they apply the Title I calculations again to the second round of funding. There's another avenue of funding that I'm pursuing, and that's funding through FEMA, which we can apply directly as a regional school district. We are an entity that can apply for FEMA relief. And that would actually equate to more dollars than the CARES Act is currently providing for us. It's an approval process, and you have to have documentation, and it's subject to audit. So we discussed in the Finance and Operations Committee that I've set up COVID accounts to track those expenses so that we can track the invoices and the expenditures. And this would be things that are out of the ordinary because of COVID that were in our budget. So where Allie has been able to balance her budget for summer school because there's some gives and takes, there's nothing that Allie's doing that I can claim FEMA reimbursement for because we have not had to spend in excess of our normal spend to prepare for COVID to bring the ESY program in. However, that's going to be different for whatever our reopening plan ends up looking like in the fall. There are definitely going to be COVID expenses that the CARES Act did not fund because we've already spent that $24,000 getting to distance learning, that we will be able to ask FEMA for. So that is an avenue of funding that we're just starting to tap into. And once we see what reopening looks like and what those exact expenses are, for instance, I just ordered 30 no-touch thermometers. That's the kind of expenditure that we'll need to check our temperatures as our kids enter our buses and enter our schools. That's something FEMA will reimburse us for. So there are federal dollars coming outside of education once we see what those expenses are that we can claim from FEMA. And those dollars I do expect to be more than the CARES Act.
Thank you. I believe Peter will be able to sleep better tonight.
All right, I'm going to go to Lisa next.
Thank you. I'm going to be quick for the sake of time, but I just wanted to comment to Pete. Your kind of theme throughout this whole meeting has been the expenses, the budget. We are a board of education, and these are unprecedented times. Nobody planned for this. And the things that Megan and her staff are planning for are not parties and fun things. We're planning for educating our students. So I think I don't really like the way that you keep, saying where this money going to come from. And I understand that, but we are not the only school district that's dealing with this. The entire United States is dealing with this. So, it's not something that Megan or her staff has done anything wrong. And I think they're doing a fabulous job with all of this. And I just needed to say that because it's like the third time that you said that tonight. So.
Well, that said, I'm glad Pete is pressing us on this, but I think I think Lisa makes a good point. So let's move on. Any other questions related to this presentation? If not, all right, Vic, you're up. Power School online registration.
So I also have to just say, Vic, we have traced the closure on Vic's hairdo, and so this is his first haircut in a while.
Nice haircut. You look good, Vic.
It feels amazing. I tell you. I couldn't do it anymore.
But I'm also going to say this is what we've wanted for electronic online registration, and to know that it has come together, and what a perfect time for it to come together. So with that, I just wanted to certainly celebrate Vic, you and your staff and their actions. So I will leave it to you to share the excitement.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming that we've been trying to do this, and just what a perfect, awkward, perfect time that it is that it's come about. There was also some within Power School, some of the things that they've done and some of their acquisitions and bringing in-house a company that specializes in this, and it was perfect timing that we started the project and we got it done, and it's coincided with a lot of changes within Power School and Power School itself. There's been some major updates that have happened over the 6 months, and also what we are trying to do in-house in making our data cleaner and easier for all of our staff to use. So there, for example, contacts, our registration page was a giant, probably 3 or 4 scrolls on your mouse to get to our registration page. And we've been, slowly but surely, we've been transferring all that stuff to a separate contacts page, which allows us to just, one click, you see all the contacts you need for a family, whether mom, dad, guardian, emergency contact info. And it's also made it easier for us to map the fields on our forms to make this online registration possible and easier for us to use. And it just made all the training that we did for our nurses, our registrars, our secretaries, and our admins on this. We still have some more to go. and some more cleaning up to do within Power School, but we are huge leap forward. Jen Bariga has been a champion for this. Her knowledge within Power School is it's really phenomenal, and she's really spearheaded this and allowed us to get where we are. But with that, online registration is there. I think we've already had, as of this afternoon, there was 33 registrations come through the portal. So that's great. Another thing that we've done recently is due to COVID and all that stuff, we went through ourselves and we created parent accounts in the portal. And we basically emailed them out to the parents. So now our K through 5, who were really left off the portal at this point and not really using Power School in this manner, they now can get the child's report cards through the parent portal as well. And once the grades are done, we flip a switch and everybody can see it. And there's not a need for the paper report card for them. And all the changes on the report card made by administration of what's to be shown, what's not to be shown, we have all those changes made, and they will see what is reflected for quarter 4 or the 3rd trimester in K-5.
Vic, no pressure here, but you are the port in the storm, I hate to tell you. And that's excellent. I'm glad to hear you're getting a lot out of Power School. This is tremendous for us.
We are, and we could use it. At one point, we were barely scratching the surface, and maybe we're knee deep in now. We have a lot more that we can do with it, and we do plan to do that.
Well, Vic, keep that up, because that's exactly where we want you to be. This is the future. This is our ability to have a relationship with the people in our community, our parents, our students, and draw it all together. Absolutely outstanding. Thank you so much.
So I just want to also share one quick thing, because Vic, just celebrating some of the other achievements that have happened in our technology. I don't know if you remember, if you dust off from meetings long ago, we decided the disposal of some Chromebooks that we were going to do. And we actually didn't just dispose of them. They went to a school in New Haven. So we were able to support another school with Chromebooks we did not need. So I believe it was 125.
135.
135. I apologize. I did not mean to undersell those efforts. But to say that went to support another school where they didn't have those devices. And it's remarkable. And Nicole?
I just wanted to add to that, because I had more details that I actually hadn't shared with Megan yet. So in the school that received the 135 Chromebooks, Vic did a great job. All but 4 were unusable, or all were usable except for 4. So they were able to re-implement 131 of them. And they did not have any devices for their 3rd and 4th graders. And they have 2 sections of 3rd and 2 sections of 4th. They were able to put those classrooms 1-to-1, which is, during a time like this, is invaluable to them. So they were super grateful, and we got a lot of thank yous, and it really was a really great thing that we did. So thanks to getting all of those ready, because it really meant a lot to them.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, I have 2 observations. Number one, I think my old Chromebook was one of the 4, but the second observation is that Region 12 Board of Ed, we are part of the solution, not part of the problem. Thank you so much, Vic, Nicole, Megan, and your staff. I think that's just a wonderful thing that we were able to contribute.
And if I could just add just one little thing, just, a huge shout out to the techs throughout the district, through all this, through that we the directive to go to distance learning was a quick decision, and you know what? It worked out better, great. We had a rough couple days to start, but unless anybody's hearing anything way different than I am, we've had our issues. We've had things break. We've had to go through and teach and replace equipment and do things like that. But I had to be, I mean, from the teachers stepping up and from the techs, you know, for those first few weeks working nearly round the clock to tackle issues, I just thought it is a huge team effort. I mean, we really pulled this off, as you're all seeing and witnessed over the past few months.
Well, we can't thank you enough because, yeah, a lot of the people in this region, I mean, Megan, Vic, you guys were handed a really bad pile of lemons, and you're turning it slowly but surely into lemonade, and that's appreciated. It's very much appreciated. I feel really proud to be a member of the Board of Education in this district because of the amazing work by our leadership and our staff. And thank you very much. And please pass it along to the entire tech community that you guys have killed it. Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I will do.
I mean, it's really funny when I get on these meetings with the board chairs. I mean, I'm almost embarrassed because a lot of people are suffering through problems that we are way beyond. So thank you very much. Okay, if there are no further questions on Power School, I'm going to move on to the action items on the thing.
Greg, Mary has a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed you, Mary.
I'll be like that. Vic, I'd just like to say thank you for all your efforts to get these laptops that we didn't use anymore to New Haven. That's a great thing. It was something that I really wanted to have us do, and because I had heard about all the need in other communities, especially I knew in Waterbury because I have a friend who's a teacher there, and she was saying that only 7% of her students go to class, and probably it was why, because they didn't have computers. So getting these out into the community, into other communities, was very important to me. So thank you very much for making that happen.
My pleasure.
Okay. Well, we're going to move on, and I think we're looking for a motion on this under the Healthy Food Certification in conjunction with the National School Lunch Program to consider, pursuant to Connecticut General Statute Section 10-215F, if the Board of Education will certify that all food items offered for sale to students in Region 12 schools will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 20 through June 30, 21. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. That having been said, the first question is it true? And the second question is, do we have any students that are actually partaking of it? Or so it's an easy certification to make. But in the past, we didn't make the certification. We opted out and we didn't go there. But now we are being asked to go there. And before we approve the certification, I would like to hear from Nicole Grant as to what the deal is.
Okay, so actually, I'm not recommending that you opt in. You do have to have the action item on the agenda to opt in or out. I think that the board should continue its practice of opting out. I felt differently at the beginning of the year when I was working on trying to turn around our food service program. But now that I see all of the outside organizations that use our buildings and all of the student groups that do fundraising, I think that by opting into this healthy food certification, it would have adverse effects on their ability to fundraise and to sponsor the things that they sponsor within our buildings. So I think that the board should continue to opt out. By opting out, what happens is we don't get an additional 6 cents per reimbursable meal sold. So if you recall back of my presentation in December, we do a lot more a la carte sales than we do reimbursable meals. So the 6 cents would only be paid to us as reimbursements for reimbursable meals, and it doesn't equate to significant funding throughout the year. And I think that if the board continues to opt out, it gives better opportunities to groups outside of our cafeteria. And in terms of serving our students healthy, nutritious foods, we're still bound by all of the regulations that exist under Smarter Snacks in the state of Connecticut and the National School Lunch Program. This is just an additional add-on that controls things going on in your building outside of your cafeteria. And I think that we shouldn't strap ourselves with that extra set of criteria, given how much our buildings are used by other organizations.
All right, so let me ask you, what do we need? Do we need a vote to move this that is defeated in order to accomplish your purposes, or do we need to just not have a motion?
You need a vote to not certify that you will comply.
Do I have a motion that we will refuse to make this certification?
I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Jen enthusiastically. Further discussion. All those in favor? Now, if you vote aye, you're voting to not participate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Is anyone abstaining? Sounds unanimous to me. What do you think, Sue? You're the official.
You got it. You got it.
Outstanding. Parliamentarian rules that we're good. All right. Next action item. Consider if appropriate, approve the Board of Education authorized Director of Finance to make a one-time appropriation from the General Operating Fund to the Food Service Fund to resolve the deficit that exists as of June 30, 2020 in the amount of $76,000 to be confirmed by audit. Before we have any motions, let's turn this over to Nicole. That sounds like you have cut the deficit by a factor of 3, but let me know.
Well, no. We came into the year with an audited deficit of $33,000.
Oh God, you doubled it. Good work.
And we were on track. If you recall my January presentation, we're making really good strides to offset the deficit for 1920 to try and get ourselves break even or positive for 1920. We came into 1920 with that 33,000 deficit. It had been recommended in prior years by our auditor to clear that deficit. We never took action to do that, so he has pressed me once again to ask the board to do that. And unfortunately, what happened to the great strides that we were making this year is we stopped running food service as of March 13th. So if you recall, we were generating about $1,200 a day in income. So our loss of income from COVID is $68,000 against expenses of maintaining our staff. So we did maintain the food service staff throughout this period. So if you add their payroll against the loss in revenue, we need to add an additional sum to that $33,000 to get that deficit off of our books by June 30th. The hope being that once we get back to normal, we can continue to work toward a break-even or profitable program. But that's where we're going to end the year this year, if I estimate as closely as I can to June 30.
All right, so what you're saying is that we did everything right. Unfortunately, because we couldn't do it, we couldn't continue to achieve the success and the revenues that were leading us in the right direction.
Correct.
All right. Do I have a motion to authorize the Director of Finance to make this transfer to the operating fund of the food service, from the operating fund of the food service fund for $76,000, or whatever the audit says?
I so move.
All right. Who made that motion?
Alex.
No, Alex, you made it, but somebody beat you to it.
Jennifer. It's fine.
All right. I think Jen moved. Alex, do you want a second?
I would be honored to second that motion.
Moved and honorably seconded. Is there further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? The chairman votes aye. It's unanimous. Okay, well done. Do we have a motion to go into executive session to discuss non-certified salary and a discussion of the superintendent's evaluation and contract?
So moved.
I'm sorry, was that Mary? Yes.
Yes.
Moved by Mary. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Jen seconded. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? All those abstaining? Chairman votes aye, it's unanimous. We will now go into executive session.